One. How's it going, everybody? I'm Loreweaver, and I'm joined by my lovely boyfriend,
Hello.
Heiko. Um, so this is the next episode of the series where I'm going through the Marvel Rivals character designs and showing him so he can do artistic analysis. He's a comic artist. He's an art teacher. He's got a lot of insight. I love doing this with him. I learn a lot from these episodes. Today, we are finally doing Hela.
Hurrah!
Goth Queen number 1 of 2 in this game. And I think you'll like both of them. Excuse me. Unfortunately, much to the sadness of everyone in the community, there is no hair down Kate Blanchett MCU Hela skin with the scraggly hair and the eyeshadow, and that's the number one want for people who play Hela, I think.
Everyone loves the unhinged woman. Ooh. We've been staring at her little icon for a long time. I was not expecting the big animated cape
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
on this. With a little bit of transparency, it's like the only thing that really filters through is light. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of some Hades vibes there.
A little bit, yeah.
So I'm just seeing like the whole ensemble, what they've done with her. I'm just taking it in for a second because there's quite a lot.
Yeah, she's got a very busy design.
Yeah. I'm looking at like how they've controlled some of the color first and where they've used certain accents, because she has this big, enormous, spiky helm. And what's kind of fun is they've had this kind of green stripe with some, like, there's a pattern in it too. And they've put that there, and then the green's coming again around the collar in this really interesting shape. And then they do this kind of big bloom across the torso where it's making these kind of repeating lines. So they're using a little bit of repetition here. So they'll have like that big green space, but it's broken up and it's creating this nice flow and line movement. You know, she needs to move just a little bit less.
I can zoom in and she'll move less. Well, she'll block her chest, though.
Oh yeah, we can't have that, can we? I was interested in is how they use the treatment of the green on the legs, because in most of the other areas they left it really open so that line is uninterrupted. It makes like a complete shape. And then when it hits the legs, they really break up that line. So it's what's called an implied line, where you kind of, if you do a dotted line, visually it's implied that it's like a complete like path to follow with your eyes, even though it's broken up in spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it interesting that to make it so that we're not flying completely down to her feet, because a lot of the lines are pointed downward or, you know, towards her face and then down, is that they use some of the accents of the armor on the legs to kind of break up those into patches, so that that line is no longer making a big leading line downwards, but it's still complementing the rest of the green accents, so that we don't just become top heavy and lose them completely. I also love that because one of the problems with some of these costumes where they're like full body is like you see the skin color and then there's just like this big peach shape right in the face and nowhere else,
Mm-hmm.
which is sometimes hard to balance. So I really like that they did some interesting shape work on the top of her chest there, which is a really, really fun to me. She's really not cooperating. She's a true villain.
Let us stare at your cleavage.
So when we talk about shape, like you can make a simple shape or a complex shape, and I really like that they went complex because it creates a lot of interest on the upper part of her whole costume, and it complements with the face really well. So we get this kind of, when you make shapes more complicated, they're more varied and then they're more eye-catching essentially,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not as unified with the rest of everything. They're still following that same kind of design language that they're using, is a lot of zigzags and spikes, essentially very pointy, very evil.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a pretty fun flow with treatment of the helmet color too into the pauldrons, which almost become its own shape. It's almost like it's not attached to her helmet obviously, but it's almost like that's all part of like one hulking big piece of armor. because the texture treatment and everything on them is the same, and they take up such a huge amount of visual space. This is a very, very big shape for the top of this character. Like, enormous.
Oh, she's got pretty green eyes. I just noticed.
Yeah, it's hard to notice when mostly she goes stabby stab. Yeah, and like the makeup treatment too is complementing the rest of the color scheme, which is like, it's dark, but they went with like a kind of a moody blue, and then they're like pulling out some greens here, especially because if they want like a lighter point like on the top of the crown. But then they'll come back and they'll add a little bit of variety by having some lighter blues too. And then there's kind of a reddish pink as a complement color. Sometimes it turns a little purpley, but it's mostly kind of a reddish warm color, which is great for contrast because we have a majority cool colored outfit, except for her skin color. Everything else is like blue greens.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have a little bit of that warmth come back in makes this outfit really nice and not monotonous. There is a lot of texture and thing going on in here, though. It's really interesting how they've controlled it really well.
I've never looked at her closely enough to see the like spirals or whatever those are, the diamond-shaped spirals on her underclothes.
Yeah, they're using a little bit of texture on that kind of fabric material. Or it could be any kind of material. It's fantasy material of some kind. It doesn't need to follow reality because she's, a alien god, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a fun way of creating some harmony between all these different sections, because they have like the big metal sections and they're repeated in different places, and they have like the big green sections, which are feeling more like lines because they're so big and they follow a clear path. So to create some harmony across the whole outfit, let's use like the same texture treatment on like a bunch of these big kind of blank areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we do have a lot of the blues and stuff, but the blue has pretty much very little texture. There's like a tiny bit, but it's like very smooth, flat, which is great when you have a lot of other elements going on and gives you a place for your eyes to rest a bit. Especially on the pauldrons, I feel like my eyes like to rest there because we have like all those lines, all those shapes, all those lines, and it's just like, oh, rest up here for a bit. And then you can kind of like sweep out with the horns and admire some of the complexity there, which is, again, a big irregular shape instead of like kind of a more orderly, easier to parse shape. And what I love about it is like, this is again another villain design thing, is you use kind of irregular, unpredictable shapes with a lot of curves and angles and things because they're more complex and they're harder to figure out. So something about them feels a little more dangerous, energetic, unfathomable. So you'll notice, like, especially like in other kinds of designs, like the protagonist is usually like very round typically, and and then like they'll do the villain's like all these spikes, all these complex things going on, all these weird shapes. And there's different design philosophies for different genres, so sometimes you'll have protagonists that are, a little more shapy depending on the type of character they're going for. But if we're just doing the classic good versus evil type of character design, you'll see a lot of that at work. I love the green on there. That's even a little bit more yellow than the rest of the green, which is a fun way to give it a little bit more punch.
On her sword, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. I got distracted without actually saying what I was talking about. The sword!
Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
Like a fun little animation. I think the metal is a lot like the rest of the armor. It looks like there might be a little bit more purples in it, but it might just be the angles because a lot of it is kind of steely blue.
It does have a little purple paint brush stroke over here.
Yeah.
But then so does the armor, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of the other armor has kind of these purpley highlights, which I was talking about bringing more warmth back into this really cool color scheme. And sometimes with when I'm looking at the Marvel Rivals characters, sometimes it takes me a moment to pick out what's painted on and what's part of the lighting that they've chosen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do notice like some characters with their highlight lighting, they choose like a particular color. Usually I've seen a lot of yellows. I've seen a little bit of cyans. I think it's one of the few pink warm families for the highlight color that I've seen, because I'm pretty sure that's not white. As far as that highlight that's dynamically representing the edges. Does she have a bounce light like some of the other characters do? Like they have a secondary one? She kind of does. It's like a violet, I think, on the underarm. So instead of being white, it's more of a purple.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually a pretty nice choice, because purple shares a little bit in common with red. And even though purple is represented in some of the outfit, the majority of what we're looking at is blue. So it's kind of a nice color to pick to keep some harmony and still add that interest. Which that secondary light does its work, because it is, lighting up the other side of the body. So we're getting really sharp edges and good definition on the whole silhouette of the character.
It's wild to actually sit and look her over, because she really is as much or more blue than she is green.
Yeah.
And that, I've never sat and looked at Hela in this game in detail before, because all her stuff is green. All her effects are green. All her highlights are green. All the flashy parts of her outfit are green. But no, she's pretty evenly split between blue and green.
Yeah, and I think if you're like taking it at face value, like if you're not really paying attention to the color, you're probably just thinking like dark outfit. I mean, it's really colorful, but you're thinking probably like black.
Yeah.
Until you really start to pay attention to how they've done the treatment, which is a great way as an artist to make your designs pop more, because you very rarely see pure black or pure white in any design, because the way light interacts with the environment is that you're going to get some kind of bounce light from something. So the only pure black you get is like in completely unlit area of the character, which is probably not very many areas. And the only time you really get pure white is if you have some kind of really bright spotlight that's kind of washing out everything. And to that point, you're probably going to wash out all the other colors by the time you start getting pure white. But yeah, I think the patterns almost look like they're on a warmer color than the rest of it. I think it's still purple and bluish, but I think compared to the surrounding colors, it appears warm. Because the other colors are so much colder. I also love the treatment of like these lines on the torso, and then the way they've broken up the legs to be really spiky and complicated, because along the middle of the chest and like the arms are kind of bare, so they kind of really left that part simple, especially because the crown is already so complicated. And she's made her zoom so she puts her arms up. Like she has a little bit of spikes on the edges of her arms, but they're quite subtle compared to the leg treatment. But what I was trying to point out...
Those are subtle?
Yeah, they're subtle compared to the rest of the outfit.
Okay, fair enough.
What I was trying to point out, though, is that we have, like, the lines from the torso in green, and I feel like that same visual flow is, like, mirrored again in the armor pieces. Like, I think we have, like, this big vertical feeling. And I think that is repeated again with the legs. And it's done in an interesting way, too, because there's kind of like a blank space in the middle, too. So we create kind of like this big... To me, it feels like those pieces of armor make the legs feel like they're one shape, even though they're two legs. But from like a silhouette standpoint, like it makes that really feel connected and together.
It's also the stance she's got.
Yeah. And then by the time you get to the knees and the boots, it becomes kind of like one big... like shape. We've dropped kind of the under fabric, so there's like this clear distinction.
She's kind of got Samus Aran from the knees down.
I think what it's kind of giving off is like from the knees we kind of get like this flame effect, and it's kind of continued up in the torso with the movement of those lines. And then we rest on that a little bit across the pauldrons and the way that across the chest and the choker and everything, and then we can go big complicated with the crown. All right, let's turn her to the side a little bit, because I was really trying to parse out what they did with all the front. And I know we're not going to get a great view of the back, because the cape kind of just disappears everything. But there is kind of a nice detail on with the shoulder, because I really like that they went abstract with it. So
you want me to zoom in?
I think we can zoom in here, because I am looking at the top for a minute, but the way it's like under the rib cage and following the lines that are mirrored on the front, like that's not armor, that's not an outfit that's just like an abstraction that feels like really solid and has volume. And I think it's an interesting play with the shape of her body and some of the other accents. It's almost insect-like, really.
Yeah.
Because segmented, but it feels like armor, but it's not like people armor, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But it has that solid feeling to it. The little green accents across the arms are kind of nice too. Again, a really nice flow of line creates an interesting movement. And she has a lot of curves and a lot of movement in all the detailing on this outfit. There's even some segmentation on the top of the arm in the same color as the gloves. I think there was some really good control here because, like, I'm looking at parts that they've added, like, a repetition and parts where they've, like, gone blank, like the hands don't have, like, any segmentation. There's, like, one piece, it looks like, on the top of her hand.
Uh-huh.
But the rest of it's kind of like black glove.
Whoops.
It's the director I have here. So I think they really tried to figure out, like, what areas are we going to try to keep more basic and simple to look at so that we can really let the other stuff shine more. So it's almost like big blank area, then like kind of subtle repetition, but it's the same color family, so it's not going to totally jump out crazy. And then it's like big accent color with the green, and that's going to be like the big leader on this outfit as far as the visual rhythms and lines that they've put in here. I'm going to see if I can take a look at the back of the boots, because I haven't really looked at the boots too closely. Well, there's kind of like a neat little like flamey accent, and then like a big knee piece, which I didn't realize it was three-dimensional from the front.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I knew it popped out, but I didn't realize it was that spiky. But it's a kind of nice break, because there's really, I mean, especially from this angle, you don't really see the side pieces on her hips really pop out as well. So to counteract that big shape on the crown, we kind of have a smaller, interesting shape. And that's a balance thing. Like if you have a big shape, you want to balance it out with something smaller, kind of like a teeter-totter or a scale.
Mm-hmm.
Then it'll feel really nice. And then we got those tiny little accents on the boots, high heels because, you know, steppy.
Mm-hmm.
Can we turn her forward just a little bit? Oh, there's some of the textures on the boot too.
Oh, yeah.
On the insides.
Cool.
Ah. You know, the best purpose I could think for that is just because her outfit is so monochrome, except for the highlights, is that just keeps a nice detail to let you know which leg's in front, so you don't get this thing. There's this thing that happens, especially in silhouette, where if you don't have a clear definition between the limbs, it'll look like one limb is in front and the other limb is behind.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes you'll see like some really early artists in their beginning years, they'll draw a character and you're like, is that the front leg or the back leg? So using a texture to define that is a really nice choice. Because like you can see no texture on the forward leg, all texture on the other leg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like this one a lot. There's a lot of cool choices, a lot of irregular lines and spiky, fun, complicated lines and shapes.
It's a good design.
And there's kind of like a slightly like segmented insect-like thing, which I like because it makes it feel alien, makes it feel kind of weird and dangerous, which I think is great for this type of character. I'm also really jamming with the sword color being the same. It's like the same shade of green, but they just took the selector and went yellow.
Punched it up a little, yeah.
And the cape's kind of the same way. I kind of was ignoring it because it's kind of big and obvious, but it has a little bit of different angles and animations. But it does this nice thing where it has like basically a gradient. And like I said, because this outfit is so top heavy, they're like, okay, subtle dark blue at the top. We'll do big bright color at the end because it'll counterbalance with the big shape she has.
Oh, it's giving off 2D textures as puffs of smoke. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah, I see it now. I love seeing 2D textures added into like 3D models because it feels like it has like the magic of some of the older 2D animation which in the West I feel is a bit forgotten, and I hope we'll come back to that with a big revival.
Yeah, me too.
Because there's merits to both methods, and it's lovely when they combine what they can both do, because they both excel in different areas. There's also a really nice shape of the way they attached the backs of the spikes. It kind of feels like a scarab. Reminds me of like those Hercules beetles. Because it's overlapped and connected in a way that makes sense.
You mean up on her shoulders?
No, on the back of her helmet, the big spikes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that totally feels like a beetle. With the big claws that crush you to death. And I do like that they put a little bit of a green on that it's kind of like a big ruffle almost on that collar. It's huge when you see it from the back. Oh, there's even some designs in the back of the pauldron.
Yep.
Huh.
I wonder if those are meant to evoke Norse or just meant to evoke, like, creepy villain stuff.
Because it kind of looks like webs or something, so I'm still picking up insect vibes, but...
True.
That's a fun detail, because from the front, obviously, there's a lot going on, and it's blank. You know, that would stand out too much. But from the back, since that cape is kind of taking away so much detail, like, you can put a little bit of pizzazz on the back, because, you know, from there, it's not overwhelming. Like, that would have been a bad choice on the front, because it'd be like, more. You know? Like, sometimes if you see overcomplicated designs, it's because there's just nowhere to rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I already talked a bit about, like, the areas they kept more blank, and how they use subtle repetition of pattern so that they could use all these, like, basically irregular, zigzag, complicated lines everywhere. And I don't think they needed to do the little spiral things on the helmet, but I love it. It's just a lovely little texture, and it just emphasizes and mimics the shape that they've already established, because it's either a repetition of it or it's just adding a little bit of a break, because, like, that spiral thing feels nice. Makes no sense, but I love it.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cool metallic effect on this one, though. I think we've seen some other metallics, but I don't know if we've seen one this dark, and I really like all the color. It's almost iridescent.
Yeah.
Again, beetle-like.
Yep.
But that's what, as a designer, you can do is you can pick a theme, and it can really help direct your design. Because I'm pretty sure they probably picked, you know, beetle, probably a scarab, and they probably looked at all the shiny carapaces and things that beetles come in. And, you know, you can don't have to follow it one-to-one, but you can play around with that design and basically use reality to inform your final design. And sometimes reality is just smarter than we are, so, you know, just steal from reality sometimes. And then bend it to your will. It's actually pretty cool from the side, too, because all those horns kind of line up in an interesting way. Like... This feels cool. You can T-pose for dominance, and it would probably actually be scary. Alright. I don't know if I can notice anything else I haven't said, because I've talked about some of the repeating elements and texture treatments and things.
Well, how about we go to her recolor then, which rules. How do you like red?
Ooh! Here comes Shadow! Ooh. Yeah.
Complete with belly windows.
Yeah, but, like, they can do that here because they have so much warmth already, so her skin color isn't going to clash like it does on the blue, you know? Like, on the blue, this would stick out too much. Dang,
she's got... Her sword is animated. Look at that.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a different effect. I think the green one might have had a subtle bit, but it was too bright to tell. But that might be different, too. I'm not sure. Oh, I love the treatment of the eyes, too. It's like that one vulture. I was trying to remember what the name of it is. But it's a vulture that eats bones, and it has red sclera and yellow eyes.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a real-life animal. Which, again, is a crazy animal and kind of a cool idea to invoke that. Maybe not everyone would pick that up, but it's also just a nice color to pick. Because yellow just looks really bright, and it's going to stand out on red, because red is, value-wise, a lot darker.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we were talking about the windows they added here, and they even took her gloves off and just made her fingertips red. And so, like, all that red warmth they can add in there. And they cut it up in such a fun way, too. Because this is pretty different than the treatment they did on the other one, because they've moved a lot of stuff around. But it's really well controlled. Let's zoom out for a little bit, because I was going to talk about the overall treatment on this, like what they chose to make red and what they chose to do something else with. Because they kept kind of like the face and the top window the same, but then they kind of added a secondary window across the belly. And some of the green highlight colors, I think, are actually... They might be red. I was trying to remember which parts were armor or not. I think they did make them red. But now we have this really cool contrast with the armor itself. And I'm just looking at how they did the control of the segments. Because, like, the top of the body is, like, mostly red and the arms are mostly red. But then the torso kind of has a split between a lot of different shapes. But then the thighs give us another big red area. So nothing feels out of balance or like it's cut up in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Even the arms also go back to the gray. So we have clear segments, and they're clearly proportioned in different ways. Because, like, the top with the big pauldrons and the helmet has, like, a big gray area. That's, I think, our largest area. Then probably medium for the legs would be my opinion, and small for the torso itself. Just as a generalization. But I am in love with this, too. And it's like they did the bright reds at the top, like they did in a lot of costumes, and then, like, they let that fade out. But the green accents, too, they let be really light, too. Because those aren't the deep red at the top of the outfit, nor are they quite that same red as the other one.
Yeah, they're kind of strawberry pink.
Yeah, which I think really helps it blend with the open windows that they added to it. Because now there's not as much of a value difference. Because if they chose the other two shades of red, the red color would be a bit darker. So I think it really helps it mesh the outfit with those skin tones that they decided to add. And it also just makes a fun repetition too, because it has like obviously the top piece was still there, but then we kind of have another repetition on the torso, and then we have like another addition on the hands. I think they did a little bit of a more fade out on the tops too, with some red too on the helmet. I mean, the green was there before, but I think even on the tops of the horns, there's a bit more red.
I think it's a little bit that there's a bigger contrast between red and black than there is between dark blue and green.
That could be too.
Because her helmet faded from the blue at the bottom to a green tip.
I just couldn't remember if it was on the horns that extend out or not. I knew it was on the center part of the helm. I just don't remember if it was up on that outer horn. I think that's also a neat treatment of the eyes too, because they add a lot of red. And it's like stripes too, because they do like red, then black, then red. It's almost like a mesmerizing pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Which is such a fun thing to do, because it's a little unusual to do tones like that over and over, because sometimes you'll get a little lost in it and it doesn't come together. But in this case, it almost feels like a gradient over where the horns meet at the side of her head. So there's like the brightest red where it hits the helm, and then we go black, and then we do a light circle around the eyes, but it's more the skin tone and less the bright red. So then the eyes can punch and, be a lot brighter with their red. The lipstick has a more of a red tint. Yeah, this is nicely and carefully controlled. I also love that the armor has it's definitely not the blue it was before, because it's like a dark gray. We've gone actually gray this time, but there's a lot of blue accents and highlights in it, like cool gray, blue accents, and that's really nice, I think, with all the red in this outfit. I always love the contrasting color families, because you can do everything in the same color family. But there's just something about adding just a little bit of a cool color to a warm color scheme, or vice versa, that I think just works a lot better, because it's something about there's too much unity. If it was like orange or bronze armor or something, like it would need to cool down somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, like it just becomes too homogenous, and then I think the designs just become a little less interesting. There's even kind of like light teal on the ends of the hip pieces.
Oh yeah.
Does she have any red on the arms when you tilt her again? Yeah, she does. I was wondering if they kept that or not, because like I said, they changed a lot on this one as far as how the pieces are cut up.
I like that her cape at the top is the color of blood.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I think that's literally blood red.
Yeah, there's quite a difference in that. Because from the front, I was just thinking red, and I wasn't paying too much attention to it, except for the difference in saturation. But that's more of a violet red, really, which is a red I love to use a lot instead of going just like straight blood red. Because going a little bit violet just feels a little, to me, it feels a little unnatural, so it makes the red kind of punchy, especially if you're going for like horror themed stuff. Because we all expected red blood. We didn't expect neon red blood. And if you try to go red orange, it just looks weird for some reason. Like if you're going for like the red outfit, it's just I don't know what it is, but I can never get red orange to look creepy. But yeah, the cape is like a different shade of red. They took kind of the violet out of it. And I don't think they bring a lot of it back in, even at the ends of the cape. They just kind of go up in saturation and value, so they're just making sure that it stays really bright. So they don't really let it go pink or anything. There might actually be a bit of orange in that lighter red. Because if you just take basic red and you just go white, you just tend to get pink. And that's definitely not getting to pink, really.
It's once again, it's the inside of a strawberry.
Yeah, but I mean, like, as far as color-wise, I think if I was mixing for that light red color, I'd probably add a little bit of yellow to it, because it's going to make it a bit orange. Because otherwise you'd get, like, trying to think of a good shade of pink to to give the description. You'd get, like the kind of pink you would put in a Barbie's bedroom, you know?
Yeah.
Like a pastel pink is what you would get, rather than light red. But it's really subtle. It's not a lot. They just slowly inch it towards a little bit more orange, so that they're not losing that. But the dark red doesn't have as much of that orange in it because they don't need it, and it'd make it red orange anyway. So they really just add the orange a bit as it gets higher in value, so that we don't get pink. Because then she'd be friendly. We want fire, danger, blood.
You know what astounds me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever run into a Hela using this costume.
That is a tragedy. Hela players, what have you been doing?
I know, right? Well.
This one looks like a goth's dream.
She has some good costumes, but I don't think I've ever run into this one.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because until the Queen in Black costume came out a few days ago, this is the one I would want.
That's like, those are kind of fun, because the cape could have got lost, but they did pull that red on the outfit more pink fuchsia, and then let the cape be red, which now I can't unsee now that I've seen it. Because before I was reading it as red, but I think I was reading it as red so well because I was noticing all the blues in the armor. Now that I'm looking at the armor, it's going more red than pink. But it was kind of interesting staring at all that red on the cape, which is more orange color family, and it makes the rest of the reds feel very pink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then just a lot of saturation changes too, which is fun, because like high saturation on the top of the helmet, low saturation as it goes farther down the body, which makes the cape pop, because the cape doesn't really change in saturation until the value change at the end. And they really try to keep that saturation high even when the value does change. But it's a thing, like, if you add white to something and you go lighter colors, you're going to lose a little bit of saturation no matter what you do. But there are ways where you could keep more of it than less. Oh, man. Should we see what else she has in store?
Yeah, we've been talking about this one for a while. In the vein of recolors, Galacta.
Ooh. I think this might be one of the more interesting ones I've seen for these kind of recolors. Of course, she already has a helmet that kind of feels like Galacta,
Yeah.
which might help contribute. I think I also like it when they keep a lot of the teals with the blue family on this color scheme instead of letting it wander about that fuchsia color.
Well, I was just about to comment on her hands, which very much do not do that.
Yeah, I was just looking at the hands. I was just like, what happened? It's like, meow. They should have just went all teal on the hands. That would have looked badass. Or all blue. Blue with teal nails. Or vice versa.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. This one's a little interesting. And it's always hard to pull that. I think pull the skin color with this type of very cool with only one warm color scheme. They kept some of the darks in the helmet though. I noticed like on the bottom section it's actually more of a gray than any of the blues or anything. That could have been cool if they could have kept more of that throughout the rest of the outfit to keep kind of the evil villain vibe, but Galactica colored. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's much to say on this one, because I see that they kept the texture area as being the fuchsia. But it's like, I'm not even sure what else they could do with this color scheme. It's like you gave them 3 colors, and you didn't let them change it too much.
Yeah.
It does seem like they had a fun with it, because I can see a lot of play with like putting the teal as an undercolor on the pauldrons and adding some accents and stuff here and there.
It is a little bit of a cacophony of color.
Yeah. I think it's one of those, like, it's hard to pull any harmony with this color scheme because you get this bright value teal, which can only really look half decent on that dark blue because they're almost in the same color family. But the blue and the fuchsia are pretty close in value. They're like one step away from each other, so you can't really do any punchy high contrast stuff unless you cheat, like they put the dark color on her helmet. Like, I can see they tried to push some darker colors, like on the arms where it goes underneath the pauldron. It's a little darker, like some sections of it, but that ruins some of the segmentation where they tried to make that all the same color, so you didn't notice it as much.
Mm-hmm.
This is what her original design went with. They even cut up the shape of the helmet a bit. It has like, now she has like 2 wings and like a dark blue piece in the middle. Although that's kind of neat because you see more of the shape of it. I don't mind that as much. But yeah, I think maybe they just need to, I think, tone down a little more of the teals. Because it's not doing the same work as the green was doing, and it's in more places.
That is your consistent complaint about the Galacta skins, is the teal.
Yeah. I don't know what it is I don't like about the teal. It's too much. It's too eye-catching. But every time I see one of these Galactica skins, I think, oh my gosh, these are like the worst colors to work with. This is like designer's nightmare. And like, I would normally love the neon look because I love black light type illustrations and things, and these are kind of in that color thing, but there's just something about the way like they're meshed together. Like, I don't know, the fuchsia needs to be more purple or something, or the blue needs to be more teal, or the fuchsia needs to be more teal. I think overall this feels
Can you
solid.
make fuchsia teal?
Well, I think if you add the teal, you're just going to basically desaturate the fuchsia, because you can just like do a opacity pass with a brush and set it to like 5 or 10%, and then you mix the color digitally. That's how I do that a lot. The cape's cool though. Look at the back of the cape. We got like a purple to blue transition. I think this angle looks pretty cool.
That's the angle you're going to be seeing her at.
True. You know, I'm looking at this from this angle where there's not as much teal, and like I'm thinking the fingers and the hands and like the accents actually look kind of cool because they almost look like they're glowing or like they're some kind of plant. I think it's just from the front because there's a big section on the torso. Like if we go to the torso a bit. Yeah, I think it's just that it's just taking up too much space on the front. Because, like, if we took more teal off the front of the outfit, like, the eyes would pop more, the hands would pop more, because the hands are right here in front. I might even be wild and take the teal off the sword, because it's making the fingers kind of get lost in it. Like, the readability is really low. Which is just saying, like, can you see what this thing is supposed to be? Like, if you ever stared at a drawing and be like, is that a hand or an arm? Or, you know.
Yeah.
That means the readability is shot and means your colors or your values or something went wrong. And since the teal and the teal are the same light value, like, at a glance, like you can still kind of get it, but it's making it busy and hard to read. It's not completely lost, but it's getting there.
Yeah.
That's my critique on this one. Maybe that's my big issue. But otherwise, I do like the treatment of where they sectioned the blues and the fuchsia. I think that was pretty nicely balanced. You know, when she's got her like pose like this, it's not too bad. I think it's just when she moves and overlaps some of the areas. I don't know if you have opinions about it or not.
I was not a huge fan of a lot of the Galactus skins to begin with, and the more you explain to me stuff about them and what they do wrong, the less of a fan I become.
You're just like, that's why they don't feel fun. Like, you know, compared to the red recolor we just looked at, like, you know, the control of the areas.
Which rules.
And, like, that one's even less colors, because really they're just doing black and red, but they choose a few different ranges of red. The Galactica ones, I don't know what they're telling their designers, but it almost feels like they're pigeonholed to use. They don't use different values or saturations of like that blue color very much, right? Or the fuchsia color. It's like fuchsia, blue, teal, and it cannot vary very much or at all. It seems like, and I think that's really restricting some solutions they could do to make these colors work better.
Teal is such a weird choice because if you look at Galactus, she doesn't have any teal on her.
Because, like, I think the best thing on this outfit is they took a dark color and went dark on the horns, on the bottom edges of them, so they fade up into that fuchsia, which is not in the color scheme they were given. You know, like, they cheated, but it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like, they should be allowed to do a little bit more of that, and I think these outfits would really pop.
Like, a blue and fuchsia Galactus skin for Hela would rule, but that's not what we got. Oh, well.
Yeah.
All right, here's one I think you will like.
That one?
Yeah. Goddess of Death.
So we have a totally different feel on this. Wow.
I think you'll like it more with the context of the MVP, which is very Heiko core, but I like the costume in general.
Yeah.
Have never seen anyone use it before, but...
Well, I'm just seeing like what they did first of all, which first thing I'm noticing is that gold accents across the front of the costume. That's like pretty much entirely on the top portion of the body. That's not mirrored anywhere below. Mm-hmm. And they have this like neon yellow green, which is an awesome color to play around with. And it looks like that's primarily a lot in the top of the costume. It's reflected a little bit towards the bottom, but it's not nearly as saturated. Like they desaturate it and tone it down a bit. Mm-hmm. As it gets onto that like loincloth piece. But it makes the fingers on this outfit, which are like 3-dimensional and like pokey, really interesting to watch.
Oh yeah, watching her move her fingers up and down the sword when you swap views. Hang on. Yeah. That looked rad.
Because those are like really eye-catching. And since they only did the tips of the fingers compared to the teal we were looking at before, you're not really losing her hands in that sword. Because the fingers are just too eye-catching. Like, you can't lose them. So it makes the readability really fast. And then even like the darker green, even though it's more subtle, it's not using that darker green in the rest of the sword. That kind of like olive green. Mm-hmm. So even the darker gray, which is the same as the sword, but you can still see the knuckles and things. And so that's not really an eye-catching part of the hand we need to pay attention to anyway. It really pops the nails on the hand holding that sword. A lot of play with green, because we're really playing with like, you know, like yellow green, then we're going kind of to the middle in a few places, and then we're going to blue green in a lot, which is kind of being used as a more neutral color in the whole outfit. So it can let those like brighter yellows pop, which makes sense because yellow is a lighter value and it's a warm color and an otherwise very cool colored outfit, so those are popping more. And it's again controlled really well because they're using like olive green to like take attention away from stuff. They're using the more saturated greens to bring more attention to other ways. She has a very unique helmet shape in this too. It's still very Beetle-like, because it's kind of got, like, this mandible thing going on. But in an abstract way, like, it's not a one-to-one. But it feels like, you know, they're playing around with shape and form and kind of sectioning off this helmet so it's overall one big shape, and then they're subtly creating some lines and rhythms because, like, you know, we have like the big bridge piece that curves around the head to this big medallion thing on their center of her forehead. And then I love that they did the more subtle blue on like the big mandible sign pieces. And to continue the helmety look, they gave her like a domino mask thing to go on it too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if she has like. I'm trying to decide if it's like dark skin makeup or if it's just part of the helmet, but it might be part of the helmet because it's a common comic book thing. I just noticed she also has these little dangly things on the end of the mandible too.
Yep.
Again, creating like more of an insect look. And it's also a little bit feminine because it's kind of like a jewelry pendant thing.
Yep.
But in a very unusual alien way. Gosh, so fun. Gosh, I'm trying to find some bigger trends in this outfit because there is kind of a lot of shape and things going on.
As an aside, I like the xenomorph tails on her hips.
Yeah, it's like a really interesting belt design. I think it's also too like they're playing around with complicated shape because we have less complicated shape around it, and the top of the costume is like big complicated shapes. We have like that bird skull and like these other little gold accents, and there's another. Let's get her to move her hands a bit so we can see more of the top of the costume. So like I say, the gold skull right in the center of her chest, the big piece, right? And then more gold on the pauldron, big sweeping line. Then we have like this repetition and kind of a filigree almost, or some of them are overlapping. Which is, again, it's a very unusual shape too. A lot like her other costumes where they break up with unusual, complicated shapes. And the green on her outfit underneath also has more texture. It has like a rib cage on her boob. And they do all of that before they finally calm down a little bit and use some bigger lines and shapes to kind of make like it's kind of a jacket shape almost, but it has like a high top.
Uh-huh.
But some of those lines are kind of repeated back and then towards the, you know, making a big, kind of a big action line. And that's kind of repeated too. The V shape that goes from that jacket that's in a kind of a dark gray is again bigger on the collar on the top, really. So we have big V shape, small V shape, and then more V shapes. And then because we did, like I said, big complicated with the gold, they can get away with little complicated on the belt without throwing off this whole design. Just because of proportions of different shapes. It's really interesting too, where they decided to put gold accents, because there's kind of like an underarm thing on the accent too. There's a lot of complication on the top of her outfit. I do sometimes wish she had a bit of a different pose because it makes it really hard to critique the top of her outfit.
Yeah, it's annoying.
But I'm just trying to articulate how they put all this stuff together because there's a lot of complexity in the top of her outfit, and I think they're balancing that a lot with a lot less complexity on the lower part of the outfit and even the top, because the top has like big collar, and
which is a mechanical design thing because they're trying to keep her silhouette relatively similar across all her costumes. So she has the big thing around her head so that it looks like Hela when you're just seeing her in passing on the battlefield.
Yeah, and even then, like, the helmet design is so simple, really. Like, it's cut up in a few different shapes to give it some interest, but overall, that big shape of the helmet is simple. So we have, you know, simple, really complicated, slightly complicated, and then simple again, and easy to read. Because I think if they had done, like, the same treatment across the middle as they on the rest of the outfit, we wouldn't even know where to look anymore. Because there's a lot of texture and things going on.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what's happening with the arms, because she kind of has like a glove and like little accents on the kind of added on armor pieces and nails. So they leave part of it a bit simple, and then they pull in this big V shape on the forearm. And then after that, it gets really complicated because they kind of have like, I think maybe they're kind of going, it's a continuation of the jacket she's wearing with the gold, because it is a garment, and it is cut up at a certain point, because the sash thing is added. And I think if you actually look a little bit, it's hard to see, but there is a little bit of a tail on the back of that jacket. It's like one of those like short jackets.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're keeping the jacket as its own complicated thing with a lot of kind of added gold accents and cutouts and things. Although, except for the gold part, which is kind of harmonized across, keeping it across the whole top of the outfit anyway, the rest of the values are pretty similar because we're keeping with that medium dark gray. And then the green that they choose to use in value is pretty close. It's not off by a whole lot, and the saturation is really low. Not as low as it could go, but it's compared to all the other greens, that's, really not very bright. It's just enough color to keep things interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the boots a bit because I've been trying to figure out the top of this outfit for a bit. Which, yeah, they kind of went with what I was saying before on the boots, like really complex on top. So those big white boots are much simpler in comparison. There's a few little things to break it up though, like we got like the knee shape and like this color on the front and a little bit of pizzazz on the back. And then the boots get really complex again.
Mm-hmm.
Still following that design stuff though, proportion, big complicated area balanced by small complicated area, which is in this case the boots. And my gosh, what have they done with them?
Yeah, they're a little weird.
She moves her cake like, no, don't critique my boots, they were designer. But there's kind of like some kind of black doodad. It still has the high heels. There's some green accent, more spiky things. Let's give her a little turn and see if we can see more of the front of the boot. That's got like little wings on the side essentially that kind of flare out. I think they're doing a lot of repetition too on shape, because like the flare outs kind of remind me of the shape of the smaller green stars on the ankle, which is kind of like a thing where it's not an exact copy, but you're invoking the idea of the same shape to create some unity, especially when you're using a lot of complex, complicated shapes. Sometimes the way to bring things back together in the design is just to do some callbacks. And some designs out there have some really interesting callbacks. There's been some really greatly designed characters. I like the little green bit on the hip too. Like they did this texture treatment, because I think otherwise it'd look a little too similar to the vest portion of her outfit. And it's just like a little bit of green. It's almost like part of the boot almost, even though it's not, but the shape feels like it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't really need the sash long in the back, so they didn't. And they just use it as a...
I mean, yeah, you're not going to be able to see it.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, they had the V shapes with the collar and the front of the outfit. So when you look at the front of the sash, you got those V shapes. But in this case, they're doing a bit of overlap. Like the fabric overlaps one way on the top, and then the green accents come down, and then they do a little V shape and overlap a bit. They kind of overlap on the same side too. It's kind of interesting doing little triangle things that point inward, because that feels a bit insect-like, danger, teeth, fang.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, don't need them there, but as a villain character and adding more triangles is always fun. I just noticed her pauldrons on this particular outfit too have like an extra point on the backside too. That's like a hook.
Oh yeah, so they do.
All right, let's see what they did with the back of the collar. Because like you said, they had to invoke the idea of Hela without having her big helmet. And this was their solution, which is the biggest collar on the planet Earth.
Biggest one in the game.
That's kind of interesting. From the front, it's kind of hard to tell that it comes out to these 2 points. Because from the front, it looked more like a oval. Yeah, I think there's one they could play with more complexity on the front, because the cape is such a big blank area. So none of this makes any sense, but it looks fun.
Yeah.
And they're using, again, like a lot of zigzags and things. We're starting to see a little bit more Art Deco in this one than some of her other stuff, because some of that feels like the gem and the wings on it feel like Art Deco to me.
Mm-hmm.
Which I sometimes feel like is a bit of a fallback in the rival style, which makes sense because they're trying to do future. And even though it's a style from like the 1920s through the 30s, we still think of it as like this very futuristic minded art style. And it's a great shorthand for invoking the idea of something future. And also, artists just love drawing that shit. It's so fun. Just like, repeat the lines, repeat them there. Geometry is fun all of a sudden.
The symbol on her cape kind of evokes the Plaga symbol from Resident Evil 4, I'm realizing.
Yeah. I wonder if there was a design idea behind that, because it's very shapy. And it feels, again, very insect-like to me, because it has the kind of jaggedness of, like, insect limbs and pieces. Because it almost does feel like something that has, like, a head and wings or an arm or legs and maybe, like, a tail. Like a evil dragonfly or something. But it's very abstract, so unless they are on purpose copying a design for something, I think it's probably just a fun design. Also kind of a fun little fade out I just noticed on the back of the collar where they're punching up a brighter green where everything else is dark.
There's a little streak of pink in there too.
Yeah. Are those are the adaptive ones, or are they like baked in?
That's baked in.
Oh. That's pretty bold. Obviously a nice contrast, but...
There's another one at the tip of this collar piece that you'll never, ever see.
Because I was thinking the blue stripe in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dark stripes and stuff that's baked in too. But there's a lot of variety there.
I wonder what the purpose of that pink stripe is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a warm color, and fuchsia puts it a little bit in with a little bit of blue, essentially, so it will give it some harmony, but not very much. But yeah, it is very bold on this design, but I think I would have went with something more subtle.
She's got some in her cape, too, underneath the Plagas symbol.
Oh. But it is a nice contrast color, and like from the back of this outfit where it's like 90% just, collar.
Yeah.
It does give you something a little more interesting to look at. I do love the animation on this cape design. Like, they kept it orderly because this design feels a little, like, less wild.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a neat effect. It's kind of like, reminds me of marble paper or water or oil or something like that. And, like, as far as I can tell, we're just doing basic, a little bit of a hue shift from, like, the dark blue to teal. And then some value shift, too. There's a little bit of warm green in there, which probably will harmonize it with the greens they're already using, but nothing wildly out of the ordinary in that one.
There are some more pink stripes, though.
Yeah. I'm guessing they're using that a lot like they used on some other models, but they usually are a little more subtle on the other models, but it's just like a highlight color.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always love the green outfits where they play around with like the lime greens and the blue greens and the desaturated greens and the saturated greens.
Once again, I don't think I've ever run into a Hela using this costume.
Yeah. The thing that's a little unusual is that the only white area seems to be the boots. And it's like a blue-gray, whitish color, but it's kind of interesting it's not repeated anywhere else. But I think because the sash covers most of the front and the rest of this outfit is so dang top-heavy and the bottom of the cape is also really bright, I don't think it really stands out abnormally.
All right. Anything else to say about this one?
I think we covered it.
All right.
I liked it, though. It was interesting.
This is a Season 0 Battle Pass skin. Empress of the Cosmos.
Ooh.
And she's got a black hole in her chest.
Yeah, she also does not have underwear on, and you can see her cooch.
I don't think she has one.
You don't think she has one? Is that how she gets away with it? She can't keep getting away with it.
You can make her outfit as skimpy as you want if she doesn't have any wibbly bits.
This is a very different design in general.
I like the hole in the world effect on this.
Yeah, it definitely has like this really cool galaxy see-through effect texture on it. It's really nice. It's really nice. I love the cape on this too. Like they extended it to like it basically touches the ground itself, but it's so clean and orderly that it's almost like unworldly floaty.
Mm-hmm.
They give her long hair.
One thing I don't like is that it's all cut like bangs, the long hair.
Yeah, the hair's cut all irregular and weird. Not sure what the idea behind that, because it feels like a chopped up hair job rather than a professional one. Which I guess if they wanted to do a wild goddess, why did not just let her have like naturally long hair and not this cut edge thing? They could have been doing like a thing where they do like a layered look, like some people do with hair, but this doesn't look like that. It's a bit odd looking. I was gonna say that it's interesting that they took this kind of like golden goddess aesthetic and transferred that to the idea of her helm, because it still has this very spiky dangerness to it. Danger look. But it still is playing around with some of those like stone statue or gold metal statue ideas, because there's like this cool like wiggly line, like a sun ray coming off various parts of the solid part of the helmet and just following the shape of the Hela shape. So we get some of that kind of curves, but we're not really committed to it. Mm-hmm. It's only there if you look. For a minute, I really didn't think she had actual eyes, but I see she can blink and everything. I thought she was going to have like the mask face kind of thing.
Yeah.
The eye baubles are interesting. They feel uncanny.
I like that they jiggle.
They do jiggle. And they use a little bit of green in some of the blue galaxy effect, but they let that be a much higher key green. What else are they doing here?
The white is a stark contrast. Especially to like her other costumes.
Yeah, it has like this kind of Greek feeling to it. Greek or Roman, I mean, take your pick, but you know, the fantasy version of it. But it's kind of fun that they broke it up into pieces a little bit and gave it some different textures and shapes. Because they've taken the essence of the Hela design, which is like big, spiky, and then they kind of did this orderly curves thing, but not enough to make her feel not dangerous, but enough to make her feel like, I'm trying to think of the right word here, almost by design, where her other one's like, you know, she's more of a wild thing, an insect, a creature. You know, this is like, you know, we already figured out how you're going to die. I'm just, you know, the bearer of your doom. Mm-hmm. And I love adding the gold accents, but I love that they left a lot of blank area too, because obviously they wanted to show off this cool galaxy effect, but it really makes the pieces that do have gold armor feel really heavy with like a lot of weight, because they're visually taking up a lot of room. Mm-hmm. And they kept the pieces pretty large when they did use them, because like, you know, large forearm piece, which is almost like one piece except for the cutouts, you know, the large star shape on the hips. And, you know, even by the time you get down to the boots, one big gold shape. And then they add, like, the gold thing on the end, which is, again, spiky, dangerous, right? Mm-hmm. Even though they're bringing a few more curves and softer
Lots
elements.
of curves on this character.
Well, what I mean is, like, in, like, the filigree on the white part of the dress, like, there's a lot of curves and not a lot of zigzag, but there's a lot of crossover and a lot of overlap, and there is some V shapes that are still being represented, so they're keeping that design philosophy. And even on the helm, it's like this, like I said, a sun ray, but it's like curved. Mm-hmm. But it gets a little bit more energetic, it looks like, the farther it gets away. And some of them even feel more like roots or something as they follow the edges of her helmet. So we're getting some of those curves in, but we're not letting the curves set the shape, because like the curves sit on there as like an accent. But the overall shape is that pointy Hela helmet scary, you know? I just like love that they're bringing in a little bit of that design element, because, you know, it feels very formal, antique, ancient. But even the way they've treated the way the helmet fits on her face, like they've covered the entire top of her face and the sides of the cheeks, so you really only get a little bit of the face in. I'm trying to decide if that's hair that's hanging off or like earrings. I think it's earrings, because they're white and there's like a little triangle there.
Yeah.
Little doodads. I'm trying to decide if there's a little bit of accents in the gold, but I think it's just some lighting, because they're, in this case, it looks like they have a green light as an accent on all that gold. Which again, they're so colorful. How? Let's look at what they did with the sword for a little bit, because it's really different too. It has like a kind of like an astrolabe thing going on there.
Yeah.
With it circling like a gyroscope. And then I love when they do a big animated piece as a focal point, because it's really interesting and it's not something I get to do it as an illustrator. And they have like these nice curves, and then it has like a one point as an accent, and then they just let the rest of it be simple blue shape. And I really love complexity in some of the designs, but when they go back to simple, I just love it a lot. Yeah, and then let's give her a turn so we see the front, because I was thinking about proportions and how they've controlled some of that. It's kind of a nice rhythm here too, as we have like huge section of gold on the top. And then if we follow along with like the arm pieces and the thigh pieces, like those almost become its own shape as far as the gold and repeating a pattern. But then we kind of do a V shape because we have that divot on the end of the outfit, that little bauble that hangs off the end. And then you just have a really small bit of gold on the boots. So it's really nicely sectioned, and there's a nice bit of rhythm. Even when she's posed, like it feels like you can just follow the gold pieces as a way for your eye to walk around the design. I'm trying to see if there's anything I missed, because this design is like they kept things simple, and like when you keep things simple, it's hard to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I really love the addition of like using the big shape to get the scary Hela irregular, complicated shape as part of her design language, because it's part of her character that they've established. But then using the insides of those shapes to add like the soft curves and circles and things that are not normally part of her design. Her design philosophy, as it were. I really adore that. I think that was a cool decision to make. And there's just like a really nice repetition throughout, because we got like the 3 eye baubles. Things are symmetrical generally. There's a cool effect on her skin. Actually, I don't think there's a lot of asymmetry in this design at all, really. Unless you count the sword, but... yeah, I like this one. It's nice.
It is a pretty cool one. All right, we've got 2 left.
All right.
This was my favorite. This is a Peach Momoko design. This was my favorite until the Queen in Black came out. It might still be my favorite. I haven't adjusted to the Queen in Black one yet, and I haven't unlocked the Queen in Black one yet, so...
yeah. Wow, this is a fun color scheme to play with.
I like how stripedy she is.
Yeah. I was just thinking like how much of the colors that they threw away from the base design are just like, yeah, and went around to play with some frankly amazing shapes, because like I said, we still have that irregular line thing, but now we're making it more curvy than it is sharp. But it's so jagged and irregular that it still feels very dangerous. And then it's kind of they're repeating some of this horn shape curviness in like the rest of the helm, so it's kind of like this attached, like organic horns, which makes sense because that's just saying as wavy and organic shapes tend to be more curved than they are geometric. And then they're bringing in a lot of spot color too, but the way they can control a lot of this extra add-ons with like all those like wraps in the horns and the bracelets I can see on this side and some of the other stitching and thing is that they decided simple color scheme, keep to that color scheme the entire design. That way with all that extra pizzazz, none of it's going to clash because we've established the color scheme and it's all going to blend together. I'm trying to figure out what else they did because there's a lot of control on the gradients here. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit just to get the full thing, because there's texture, there's gradient, there's a bit of play and saturation. So let's I'm gonna start from the top because I can see the skin tone just right off the bat. They have all that gold, so they're taking a skin tone that's still yellow, but they're desaturating it a bit, just a bit. So it's not the bright orange gold, but it's still in like the neighborhood of the other yellow. So we're still following this really lovely yellow color scheme without getting off the rails. There's a little bit of play on light grays too, which I'm noticing they're doing a lot of light grays closer to the viewer and the dark grays on the ends of things and farther back, which is a pretty fun way to play with perspective, I think, and keeping that consistent across the whole design too. So we get a deal of depth, even though she's pretty still. She's moving a little bit, but we get a bit of depth that way too, out of her design. Let's see, so we have some bright red throughout the design, but the biggest areas are kind of like the little fabric that she's wearing around her neck and the big sash she has around her center. And I think these look particularly nice because the sash is such a big shape, and then it's repeated again on the neck, which I think creates a nice rhythm balance. And then you can just use the smaller accents of red to really play around with movement. So, it feels like we go from the center of the sash and there's all those red ropes. We have these lines going out. We have some red around the arm, which I think is actually nearly the same location on both arms. They have it in that upper part of the upper arm.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's asymmetrical on the horns, but I still think it's playing with a kind of a implied line, like I was saying before. Because I can see like the 3 on it'd be her right, as being a line that kind of like makes a curve and leads down. And the other ones are a little more irregular, but it creates a little bit of asymmetry. And it's close enough to some of the other red colors that I feel like we want to be rushing to the next red space because we're trying to make a pattern that we can't figure out yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we go, oh, there's the pattern. And then we hit like the next sash, and then we go down, and there's all these other little accents. And they're just kind of these soft curves that are, one, creating these interesting rhythms across the whole design, and 2, the curves show off the form of the body, so it feels more three-dimensional because we can tell that it's curving around a 3D object. Also noticing I was saying the red was used really well is that there's not really any red bracelets on her legs. They're all gold, silver. Her shoes are a little more reddish orange, but not at the same intensity as what's on the top of the outfit.
They're also apparently ethereal. I
Yeah,
never noticed
because
that.
they're see-through. Some of the other things they're doing with let's look at the front still, because I'm still going. Because we're talking about some texture use that we're seeing, especially a lot in the bottom of the outfit, but even the top, because the horns, ton of texture, the pauldrons, ton of texture, and then we get kind of a break in the face and the garment in the middle because the textures there are more subtle. Ton of texture in the sash and the neck, but the color is also a unifying element on those. And then we get some more fabric there, and we play a lot with different textures, which is fun because I'm seeing like the yellow on the arms, and then it's cut up with like this dark gray, and then it does a gradient back out to yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of creating this, even in the fabric, we're kind of creating this like gray stripe that goes across the entire middle of the design. And then on the legs, we have this kind of stripy texture. And I like that there's a bit of a similar line in the cape, but different thickness. Because, lines on, if we were to imagine those stripes as a line, those are big, thick lines. And the lines on the cape are small, thin lines. So we get a bit of contrast. So they're not too samey, but we're also kind of mimicking that idea of the stripes. So it's like a callback. And then, of course, the big stripes are farther apart than the stripes on the pauldron or the horns, but still same, like, curviness and everything else.
I do like the beetle wing pauldrons.
Yeah, there's, like, a couple layers to that, too. I also really like this fade out of, like, dark gray. And it's like, it really stays even dark in the middle, and then it only gets light at the end. And then they reverse that for the middle section, which is fine because their yellow legs are in front of that dark gray. So we get another punch of pushing a more saturated color forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can see on this side too, like it's like the same piece of fabric just flipped. And then I think because they're keeping everything low key, like the yellow on the bottom is like really light value, really light saturation. It's a very pale yellow. So then we get to play around with sort of these focal points where on the back, it's this big gold piece that's like this giant circle on her back.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little bit of a callback on the collar and the little coin there. And there's like a few other coin accents on the horns as well. But the big eye catcher is that giant one because it's the biggest thing there and it has a little bit of friends, And And like that creates some interesting shapes too that they get to play around with, and the lines are mimicking that too as well in the fabric. But that's a lot of control. That's like texture control, saturation control, value control. A lot going on there. Because this is a design like you could easily lose track of if you're not too careful with it. I was looking at the front a bit more too, because I was going to talk about a big focal point in the belt where it has that big moon shape.
Uh-huh.
Because that's again another huge shape. There is a pattern though. You have to zoom out because she's just awful. She's like, no, don't look. But she has, to me, they look kind of like buoys, which is not what they are. I think it's something else. Usually,
Life preservers.
yeah, it's the color. I think what it's based off of is kind of, it's in Asia. I want to say it might be Tibetan, but it could be in mainland China too. But it's basically, they carve them from jade. And I forgot the name of them. You can sue me about it. But, you know, they're usually carved out of jade, and then you tie a string, and then you can put it on a multitude of things. And they've been around forever, so who knows what they were used for. But you notice there's a lot of repetition of, like, there's on the pauldrons, on the center of the outfit, again on the belly. So we're creating a pattern that we can follow. And so then we can put this big eye-catching piece with that moon shape. And that's a huge eye-catching piece because it's got all these other little things on it. It's got the red lines. But we have a big kind of blank area in the center too, because like I said, big, complicated on the helmet, on the pauldrons, kind of take away texture and make it more subtle in the middle. So then you can do another big shape. And I think it's fun too, is they're repeating the bracelet idea again on the legs, but they're controlling the colors a bit more, and they're just keeping to golds and silvers, so that all the red on the outfit is just staying on the top of the whole character. And I just really like that one bit of red on the arms. I think that's really nice and feels really great with the other thin red lines on that kind of coin belt that she's got going on. I was going to take a look at her sword finally. Because I haven't paid too much attention to that. And
It's got a great big crow skull.
Yeah, I was like, I see a skull thing, and it looks like some red fabric.
Let me zoom out so you can get a better view of it.
Yeah, it's a little hard to see what it is exactly. But we have a little bit of the yellow, red, gray on the blade with a cool animation. And then we stick with some red and white, which is very smart because you're not breaking up your color scheme any more than you have to. And, you know, it's very monochromatic, so it's not going to clash with whatever she already has going on. I was going to see if we could see anything on the back of the outfit, because for once her cape isn't, you know, taking away detail, but there might not be a good angle. But it looks like the sash goes on her back, and I think there's another one of those round coins with a hole in it that were on the front of the outfit as well. It's kind of interesting though, because she feels kind of stitched together too in some places, like a wild warlock. That's kind of, looking by the background, that kind of feels like the thing they were going for too. Like it feels like mysticism.
I wonder what she's supposed to be, because the artist, this is not a Hela that's like in the comics. Mm-hmm. Peach Momoko's Demon Days is a medieval Japan AU of the Marvel Universe, and with different interpretations of the characters. Like the main character is a version of Psylocke who has a pet wolf named Logan. And one of her major villains is a Orochi, which is a snake god version of Venom. And there's a whole bunch of different characters. Like there's a Hulk Oni. There's a whole bunch of different characters that are reinterpreted as medieval Japanese or Japanese mythology things. And they contracted Peach Momoko to do a bunch of designs for Marvel Rivals. Punisher has one, Hela has one, Spider-Man's got one, I think there are a few others. And these aren't designs that appear in Demon Days, but they're all... Oh, Loki's got one too. They're all based on like medieval Japan or Japanese mythology. And I'm wondering what she's supposed to... Does it say? No, it doesn't say what she's supposed to be. Just Yami no Karasu.
I was still reading that.
Oh, sorry. Legends whisper through the winds of Kirisaki Mountain. When the dying hear the sound of wings slicing through the air, the divine raven descends, ushering in the fog of Yami. Its eyes mirror the haunting specter of the Sanzu River, while its dark feathers carry the lingering stench of decay. Those who encounter this spectral being feel an icy chill seep into their bones when they hear her call, the death knell of Karasu cackling.
I was like, didn't think I was going to get quizzed on my my knowledge of Japanese afterlife, because all I remember is Yami's the king. I want to say the river is like the river in the afterlife or something along those lines, but I'm probably entirely wrong. But I do know Yami's king of pretty much everything to do with spirits and everything.
Karasu is crow, I think, so I guess she's just queen of crows.
Well, it sounds like she's an agent of Yami that's there to, like, basically bring the dead back to where they're supposed to go.
I guess.
Or at least, bring death to things.
Yeah.
Because the fog of Yami really sounds like, you're breaking the underworld into the real world. And it sounds kind of sinister.
Yeah.
Which would work for kind of a creepy villain character. But one thing I was looking at design-wise I didn't quite pick up earlier is that I thought her garment split at the top. But I just realized that's a piece of metal that's holding everything together. But, like, the design to me, from what my limited experience is, kind of feels like some of, like, the older pagan styles of dress. Like a more traditional, it's more based off of metals and materials and jade. So, I'm feeling like with this design, I haven't seen the other Peach Momoko designs, but it feels like they're going for, like, a wilder, more ancient feel on this character compared to, like, some of the more modern, or relative, I don't want to say modern, but more like in written history type designs, if that makes sense. Like, this would be like a design that predates the written history from, like, finding artifacts that are 10,000 years old or more. Or maybe 10,000 might have been too big a number. But, you know what I mean? Like, they find a lot of cool stuff that they dig out, and they go, it's like, oh, it's a thing. We give it a name, and we have absolutely little idea of what it was probably used for, because there's a lot of them, then we know they're important, we have no clue.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like she's borrowing some design elements from that kind of era, and I really love it. I think putting the big gold accent on the head, too, was really fun. But yeah, overall, there's just a really fun play of keeping a limited color palette, really relying on saturation and value to carry the design, and then just be really controlled about how you're using proportion, because like I said, like using the big sash on the neck and the waist versus the lines of the small bits of red here and there as like kind of an accent, and then controlling on what portions of the entire ensemble, because it's not just one area. You got to think of like the whole picture, which is why I keep telling you to zoom out quite often with her. Because for one, she's blocking the front of her outfit, and for two, sometimes you have to look at the big picture, because like I was saying, the only reddish color is kind of the spectral slippers, and even those are more like a red-orange to me. Like, they pop the color a little bit, but it is not the same shade of red that they're using on the strings and the sash and the other accents. And very cool. I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
It's very playful, and I love the multiple treatments of texture, because they do texture a lot, but this one has a ton of it. And that can get away from you pretty fast if you're not too careful with it.
Yeah.
All right, you said there's one more?
One more. So, at the start of the current season, at the start of July, we got the intro cinematic and the current main menu splash art that you've seen. Mm-hmm. And it revealed this design for Hela, who has made a deal with Null. And we then didn't get it. We then didn't get the costume for over a month, until the new season started on the 8th. and it was revealed as part of a mini pass that you can purchase, and you can only do like 3 levels of it per day, and there's like 24 or 27 levels or whatever. So we still don't have the costume, but it's the Queen in Black.
They really didn't want you to have this costume, did they?
People have been looking forward to this.
Damn, this one's saucy.
Oh yeah.
They took evil Hela and made her more evil.
What kind of qualifier is it that you've got Hela and evil Hela when she's already evil?
I know, right? She has kind of like an alien thing on the front of her outfit, like little grabbers. I'm not the only one.
The face hugger?
Yeah, the face hugger.
Yeah, that's Null's dragon emblem or something.
I see alien face hugger.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. Yeah, I've seen this on the splash art for so long. I had no idea it was supposed to be a Hela outfit, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I was just like, oh.
Well, yeah, no, that makes sense because it's a very big departure from her.
Yeah, it really is. And like, even face-wise, doesn't she look like she's got more angular face and it's like a little more severe compared to like, I mean, she's always been wearing the helmet, so it probably adds some bulk to her overall face.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take the helmet off, it's just like, who is this thin, like, you know, woman with them, you know, the thin cheeks and everything, like just carved, like chiseled out.
Kate Blanchett, is that you?
Yeah, so trying to see what they did overall. They brought back the nail highlights, which I think are always a win. And then there's a bit of an animation effect. Just like trying to see what they did overall. Oh, there's a bit of asymmetry on the hips. Oh, maybe not. It's just lighting. I couldn't see the other side. I thought it was one side. Hela, always with their surprises. So the colors are kind of like a dull purple, skin-toned white, black, and red. There's kind of 2 shades of gray. And I'm looking at this. Kind of a bluish shade, which they're using a lot on the lower legs, and then a darker shade, which they're using a lot on the pauldrons and kind of the little accent up through the middle. Just kind of a big arrow, really, for her torso. This is kind of a wild design, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like they cut out the whole middle of the outfit, and like her front of her outfit is a paste on. And then some arm cutouts. Which makes it feel less like clothing and like they're doing this goop thing. So it's almost like a organic suit thing happening.
I think this is a symbiote outfit.
Which makes, like I was going to say, it makes sense because he's like the Lord of the Symbiotes kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
I'm looking at how they controlled red in this outfit because they're being very selective with it. They're playing a bit around with texture too. It's pretty subtle, honestly, except for like a few areas. Like obviously the big face hugger emblem has a lot of texture and repetition and things on it, and it takes up a huge part of the top part of the outfit. They're mimicking his little spiral in a lot of places too, like the tail of the dragon emblem, but on the pauldrons too, the earrings, the knees.
Her heels.
Yeah, the heels. Fun way to do that callback in multiple areas. And I think I really like the spiral going down the lower section of the boots, giving it just a little bit more red. Because otherwise they're kind of doing a balance of like big area, medium area, small. But I'm trying to figure out if they've been really playing around with much of anything else in this. Oh, there is kind of interesting overlap on the hips. I just noticed that they did a spike with the dark gray area, and then they pulled another spike with the light gray area.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you know, I think leading to a really layered look. Especially since there's a lot of skin in the middle of this outfit.
Yeah, but it's not skin toned, so does it really count?
Evil skin. But I do like the 3-dimensionality on the sides of the legs, because it is kind of following the overall designs of her previous outfits, where it's like there's a lot more texture on the sides of the hips than there is in the center. Does she have any spikies on her arms? She has one.
Yeah, on her elbow.
On her elbow. Oh, the back of the outfit has like a red thing that goes all the way down to her tailbone.
Yep.
I feel like with this outfit, though, it makes her butt look really bare.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. I'm not sure how I feel about the back of the hair, though. Like, everything else feels so organic-y and weird and wild, and, like, the hair just feels like they went to a really odd avant-garde stylist. Like, I don't know. I feel like if I was gonna do the hair, because the front has, like, these spiky bangs, like, I want to see a more spiky, wild shape. Like, they could have done the shape of her helmet with the hair almost, but, like, a little more abstract and a little more reasonable.
Yeah.
That could have been kind of cool, like, if it was doing, like, weird, jagged crap on the back of her hair, like her default helm does. But this, yeah, this feels like a... I don't know, it's too soft. It's all curves. We don't need curves. Everything else is spiky. And it's not like the other outfit where they were doing like this goddess of, you know, Greek antiquity look where they want to have some of that ordered roundness to make it feel formal. And it's like, this is supposed to be gross and spiky and alien. Get those soft curls out of here. I do like the play of the 2 shades of gray, though. I feel like it makes it look really fleshy. Especially with the treatment of the texture and the way they've kind of organically drawn some of these. I think it's actually pulsing, too, now that I look at it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, large parts of her costume are pulsing because she's got a symbiote on.
What did they do with the sword on this one? That's fun with the texture. Kind of reminds me of like Baby's first fantasy sword, like that old school style, where you would draw a sword.
Ouch!
But then it had to have like a bajillion swirls and stuff in it. I'm not saying I hate it. I love that crap. But I'm just saying that's definitely the first fantasy sword you draw when you want to draw a sword that's not a traditional sword. And you're just like, yeah, swirls, and a big gem in the hilt because fuck yeah. But I do like the treatment of making it have like a red hot poker end. It makes it feel interesting, rather than if they just kept it one color.
Mm-hmm.
I think that gives it a little bit of interest. The cape is pretty fun too. I'm still not sure about the spiral thing because I feel like I don't know if I think they did use the round spiral in the comic too, but I'm used to the jagged ones. I think it just frankly looks more
like on her forehead.
Like on her forehead. Like I just think frankly the jagged one feels more awesome and like weird and sinister.
Yeah, I can see how they should have gone with the jagged one.
So I think if they just did the jagged one with the same pattern on her cape, I think I would have been in love with it. But otherwise it feels like if you put this on a different outfit, it could look like just a cool design because it's really round and friendly.
Yeah.
So, or even if they just cut up the edge of the cape so it's all jagged or something. I don't know. Like I said, like this is not the design to bring out the curves. In my opinion. I don't know if that's everyone else's opinion, but like, we're talking like evil alien and scary. Like this is the point where like the curves need to go away. They need to, be radical and pointy and curves are just there as part of a bigger leading line rather than a central part of your design. But that's like my opinion. I do like the spike treatment on the pauldrons because I think they did do an asymmetrical thing a bit. Slightly, I think.
A little bit.
A little bit. Not a lot. I was going to see if they are actually more symmetrical than I thought. Well, it's their hair got in the way. But yeah, what's the description on this outfit? Is it to say?
Rise, my queen in black. Rise so that all others may fall.
Cool. But, honestly, I can't remember if I remember her hair being curly in the splash art because she's kind of cut off on the corner, so like the hair is like pulled back, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, again, I guess I just want her to be more of a mess. So the 2 places where they made her a little more ordered, I'm just like, what's this? Get it out of here. But I think overall it's a pretty cool design, and it fits with what they were going for as far as a weird Null-themed Hela. And I think an interesting character to choose for that, too, because, she's kind of like off the path, essentially. She had purpose, and then she lost purpose. So her going to different factions just sounds like it fits well with her journey as a character. To commit more crimes!
Quick, to the Thanos copter.
All right.
You actually didn't have a lot to say about this one compared to the others.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't really much to pick out that I could really find. Like, you know, like there's a couple overlapping values on the gray. There's the big red accents. They're only in 3 areas, so it's pretty simple to, you know, talk them out. I guess I could talk about her bleeding mascara, you know. The hair's in the way. Give her a turn. There you go. Like I said, she needs those soft edges. This woman is a mess.
You heard him, Netties. Give us Kate Blanchett, hair down, eye makeup smudged, MCU Hela. Everyone wants it.
This sounds like something you want.
I am far from the only person asking for it.
I am purely a professional and I'm only committing to it as a design perspective. What everyone does on their personal time is up to them.
People want that, and people want the as an Ultron costume. You know when he first wakes up and he takes over the destroyed Iron Man bots? Mm-hmm. People want destroyed Iron Man bot costume for Ultron, which would rule.
That'd be pretty cool.
But we're probably getting the final form Ultron as his MCU skin if we get one. All right, well, that's all the costumes. Let's look at the MVPs. Here's our default. Oh, we're in the Queen in Black one. Hang on. Which of these do you want it to be?
Well, the one you would normally see with the default, which would be the default costume, I would think. Ooh, that's a green.
Mm-hmm.
This is still really solid, though, even by the default. I really like it. I like the addition of the crows too, because sometimes when the you know, like the Norse gods in the Marvel universe are so abstracted, like sometimes I forget they're supposed to be based on the Norse gods.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, animals.
Her friendly alt line is a feast for my crows. I think that's what a feast for my crows is anyway. All right, here's the galactic one.
Ooh, focus on the sword. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Good splash art.
Yeah. That's like the universe in her hand. Yeah, that one's pretty cool. It's very reserved, but I think it works for that character because it's supposed to be like almost a statuesque, you know, non-emotive creature.
Mm-hmm.
At least in the way it's designed, that's the way I would go for it.
Here's the Peach Momoko one.
Ooh, green effect. Quite the pizzazz on that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of texture even just in that, like all that smoke and grit and things. Really fits nice with how much texture that artist put in the character design. Alright, let's see what's next.
Goddess of Death.
Ooh.
This is the one I expected to be your favorite MVP.
I feel like I want the background color to be something different though. Because like we have this cool effect here. And it's like this neon green thing, but the green on the background is almost too similar. And then it goes, the orange punch is cool, but like what if they went with like a pale yellow or something? So it could, like her effects could, you know, contrast with it a bit more. And then still get that punchy, you know, bright red popping in at the splash screen.
That would make sense.
At least that's my opinion on this one. Because I feel like I really love that effect there, like the texture and stuff on it. And then like this is, gets a little lost a bit.
Yeah. Alright, and finally the Queen in Black.
Ooh, she gets attacked by another hero. Get the free ass shot.
Yeah. Also, this one's 8 million years long compared to the normal ones.
I know, right? It's like you get a whole movie with this one. Like, what the heck? It's a lot more ambitious than they normally go for. It's awesome, but it's also just like, what the heck made you so special?
Well, she's part of the villain duo for this whole season.
Yeah, I guess, but it seems like a little unfair for the people who got the other costumes. It's like, gee, Jimmy, how come you got an extra long MVP?
All right, so which of the MVPs is your favorite before we go on to the costumes?
I'm kind of torn between this one and the Galaxy skin. Yeah, the Cosmos. I don't know, this bit feels cool. And I love the framing of it being super close. But it's also like, it's hard to compare it this time because this other one gets like a whole cinematic universe. And these guys get like a 10-second shot of something, you know?
Yeah.
That's so unfair. So we'll split it this way. Considering that the other competition cheated by going over runtime, this one's my favorite. But if I had to choose an overall, I really like the
Queen in Black.
Queen in Black.
Man, this is 1 million years long, though. Can you imagine seeing this at the end of every match?
Because like the other ones would have ended like 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
But now they need to go back and make all of them this long. That's my ask for the dev team. Have fun.
All right, and now costumes. Which of these costumes is your favorite?
I gotta think here. Let's look at the red alt skin.
I thought you'd go that way.
It is really good. And then I was gonna look at the peach. And the galaxy one.
It says a lot about how cool the design is that the recolor is competing with these.
Yeah. I'm really partial to the default one because it's really good, honestly.
The default or the red default?
The default, because it's actually really good. Like, I could totally see this as being in the comic series itself, you know, like colored this way and presented this way. But I also really like the peach one, but it's such a departure from the Marvel style. Like, just as being an artist, like if I saw these in a lineup, I'd be like, why is this one so different? Which isn't bad because they obviously hired the artist to represent their own style, but because it's not a house style for Marvel Rivals, it does stand out a little bit as a bit different. Does this one, like Marvel Rivals style tends to have a very painterly texture treatment overall, and this one feels more like a pencil or a charcoal. Like it feels more like a soft medium than like a painting.
It even shows in the splash frame at the end of her MVP.
Yeah, like, and they do the highlights that are like more typical of the Marvel style, but you can still tell overall that it's a little bit of a departure. I really like it though, because I'm always impressed when an artist can take a really textured design and keep a hold of all the textures, because I feel like that can be hard to do, because when you're drawing you're like, yeah, this cool texture, and I'll render this and then I'll put this here, and then, like, you know, individually if you were to highlight certain areas it looks great, but then you come back and look at the overall and you're just like, I did too much. You know, there's too much going on here. So I feel like I'm leaning towards this one, so I'm gonna go with this one.
This is a really good one.
It is. It's also just really a fun treatment of the helmet too, having this kind of organic horn look, because it does look like horns while still keeping that silhouette. And
yeah, it's a really good design.
I think too, because they were doing their own thing. Like a lot of the other Marvel designs keep like the big shape on the side of the hips, because they all are kind of following the default design aesthetic of that default skin. So a lot of them are keeping with that shape because it's already really good. So I think this is a kind of a fun departure from that as well, because instead of having big shape, she does more of like a texture on the hips or a repetition of line, which is fun. I think it lets the size of the shapes on the top of her outfit stand out, and everything's flowy and fun. There's some cool accents, and the color control is really good. Good job. I really, you're telling me there's more, and now I'm kind of excited to see more of designs that this artist has done, because it sounds really cool.
Yeah, Psylocke's default costume, Punisher as a costume, Spider-Man as a costume, Loki as a costume. And Penny Parker as a costume. I think that's a Peach Momoko one. I'd have to check. But I think you'll like that one when we get to it. Yeah, they brought her on to do a whole bunch of designs for this game. But yeah, that's Hela.
I think we finished the first page.
We almost finished the first page.
Oh.
Blade got added.
Oh, they added Blade!
They added Blade, who
boy!
We will probably not be getting to until after we do everybody else.
You're trying to hurt my feelings now.
Do you want to do Blade next? Well, he's only got 3 costumes.
Yeah.
I was thinking we'd hold off and do him on a second pass, and like we'd go through to the end of the list, then we'd come back and we'd do the characters that got added after we started doing this process, because then they'll have more costumes. Because he's got
my boy.
3. He's got
my
3.
Boy. I love Blade. It's one of my early vampire films, and it's a classic. Everybody knows that. It was such a fun time.
Well, you'll just have to do a bunch of these with me to get to him.
I guess so. I guess I'm stuck. Stuck in the grind.
But yeah, we have sort of finished page 1. On to page 2. Next time we will be doing Iron Fist.
All right.
Yeah, who will be much shorter than today's, because he's only got 5 costumes.
Oh no.
Yeah, we went a while this time. Hour and 45 minutes.
Well, I had to give Hela her due.
Yeah.
The goth queen.
I wasn't complaining. All right. Well, yeah, that's where we're going to end for today, because I've got to go stream. Thank you guys for watching this. It's been a lot of fun.
It has.
And we will see you next time for Iron Fist.
Bye.
Bye-bye.